Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, training for a rating, or just thinking about getting started in aviation, we like to think of the podcast as your aviation companion and your weekly dose of aviation inspiration. Tonight, we'll be talking about long cross-country cockpit planning. Say that 5 times really fast. I thought I went through it pretty well. My name is Ben. I am a pilot with an IFR rating and a commercial certificate based here in the Atlanta metro area, flying a Cessna 182 I like to call the Beast. Joining me tonight, my friends, private pilot in Nashville, home of the Bachelorette Super Charlie. Right there in the heart of Music Row, it's our friend Brian Siskin flying a Cherokee 180 named Lucy. Good evening, sir.
You know, I wish that I was flying a Cherokee named Lucy, but when I tried to fly Cherokee named Lucy on Friday, there's something that happens every time you take the cowl off and then put it back on, where the plane conscientiously objects to being exposed to air, and then things happen. So our ignition issue has reared its head again, but you know what? It was a really good run up that I did and a good decision. Let's just put it that way.
We gotta celebrate the no-goes.
Yeah, you celebrate the no-goes. Anyway, Lucy's down for the moment again, but you know, the way my mechanic put it was kind of like, because the harnesses are from, you know, Nixon era or something, but he basically said, well, it got you to Texas. And I thought, you know what? You're right. And thank you. And also, that's scary. So anyway, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing great. I'm glad you are back, Ben. And
thank you.
The audience doesn't know you were gone because we've been putting out podcasts every week, but we did a doubleheader last week so that you could go and run around. I can't wait to hear about all your international, you know, trouble, whatever you've been doing. And thanks for showing up sick. You know, that means a lot.
Yeah. Oh, you know, this is one of my favorite nights of the week. Also joining us from Portlandia, one of my favorite towns in this country, to be honest with you. Here's our sport pilot extraordinaire. He flies a flight design CTLS. We like to call it the Egg. It's our friend Ted. Good evening, sir.
Hey there. Really glad to be here. Yeah.
Really glad you're with us.
Portland is kind of in full swing. In the kind of summer mania. So there were some great photos of the big bike opening event of social bicycling through town, and everybody looks happy and just enjoying summer. And that's when it's fun to be here and not the middle of winter. So yeah, we love it.
That's awesome. Whenever I'm there, I'm always looking for Fred Armisen in the cast of Portlandia, because I'm just waiting for one of their TV shows experiences to happen in real life, because I kind of feel like it's based on real life.
It happens everywhere in real life in Portland.
Yes,
exactly.
So,
but no, this time of year out there is the magic time. I'm so jealous. It's such an incredible feeling out there. I did live in Seattle many moons ago for a while, and I experienced something similar. And there's just something about the mass, you know, everybody comes outside again and, you know, run around, and it's such a great thing, especially once it gets into deep summer and it's still sunset at 9 o'clock, 9:15. Yeah. Just the long, endless days of summer there. It's like nothing else. And I made the mistake of taking my wife to Manzanita on the coast there during prime time of the year. And she believes that that's how it is all the time, I think. And because when you see something so majestic, you just feel like, of course, it's like this all the time.
All the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not. So.
The people that visit and they're like, this is wonderful. It's like, come back in February.
Right.
I love it here, but you have to know that it's cyclic. It's seasonal. There's literally seasonal. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, I wanted to share a story. This is kind of my version of a personal flying recap, but I wasn't really flying. But, you know, I wanted to bring this up in the last episode when we were talking about the debriefs. And it just opportunity didn't present itself. But I want you both to know that I've taken, we talk about this on the podcast a lot, about how midlifers are a little harder on themselves when it comes to training and things like that, right?
No.
In the level of berating yourself, quantum leap in doing this. So before I left to go to town, I was on the phone in the morning with somebody, and so I got to set this up. I was on this phone call, and this person on the other end of the phone just was kind of being a jerk for the sake of being a jerk. He didn't have to be, he just chose to be. I get off the phone call and I walk over to my workshop. I was going to fire up some videos. I needed a minute to decompress because my head was in a really bad space. I fire up the computer on my feed. I think he's in the chat tonight. Our friend Virgil from Plain Places had posted a video from the big Texas Send. And this was the Saturday where everybody kind of went and did their thing. So again, my head's in this negative space. I'm watching his video and he makes the call. You know, he's getting on the runway, getting ready for takeoff. He's making the proper calls. And then on the video, you hear somebody key the mic. I don't hear anything. And I'm in my workshop. I'm by myself and I say out loud, "Hey, idiot, it's a push to talk, not push." And about 3 seconds later, I hear my voice come on over the radio, Gillespie County Traffic, Skylane 42911's March or Northeast. The person I'm berating is me. I want you to know that I have made the quantum leap of berating myself behind my own back.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
So, okay, what did you say? You said
I just pressed apparently I pressed the push to talk button and there was this big gap of not saying anything.
That's like
and
the
I'm
student
thinking to
pilot
myself,
thing.
as I'm watching this on the video, the guy's an idiot. It's not a push to talk button. It's a push to think, or it's not a push to think button. It's a push to talk button.
Yeah.
And then I realized that idiot was me.
Yes. That's the student pilot thing of clicking it and it's okay, what is it that I say next? What plane am I in? Where am I?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was me. I was berating myself behind my own back.
Yeah.
I've seen some videos of people coming in and out of John Tune or airports that I'm around a lot. And I've heard myself it's very strange to be watching someone else's flying video. And then all of a sudden you are on the radio and it is startling, but, I don't think I had one of those moments exactly, but I'm sure it was, I keep waiting to have one of those moments where I'm watching somebody's flying video and they're cursing me, you know, for one of those things that I don't know, get mad at when you're flying in the pattern, or I don't know, what's this guy doing another short approach, you know, or I don't know. If I cut somebody off by accident, I don't know, whatever, you know?
Right.
I kind of want to see somebody just get really angry at me. It would be hilarious.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Virgil is in the chat and he said, I made sure all your CTAF calls ended up in the cut. I love that. And our friend Peter T, we're our own worst critics. That's very true.
I've just taken it to another level, Peter. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Theoretically, Virgil, it would be very easy to take, if we could just collect any bad radio calls that we have from Ben, we could centralize, we could make a repository of them and then find all the YouTubers that we can to just borrow from these little seeds of audio failure. And then just just have them be in the chat. Like you could just paste them in the audio of your video. It doesn't even have to be something you actively acknowledge.
Right.
But maybe we can just take the same stuff of Ben's push to think and then just get it into like 100 different videos.
That's like the Wilhelm scream where you recognize it because it's the same clip being put everywhere.
Yeah,
we'll just have this clip of Ben with it clicking on and a delay, and then 42911. He's going to be at every airport now. I love
That's
this.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You were on the radio in my last video.
I heard it. I watched it.
You did just fine.
I did just fine. So that's not all bad out there.
No, you're good on the radios.
Yeah.
You like to be friendly with ATC though. You're like, hey, what'd you have for lunch today?
You've called me out on that before, and I'll say
that's not a bad thing.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just
you're a naturally Southern, chummy, friendly person.
But what I have made myself being aware of it is that some controllers don't want the chumminess.
Oh yeah.
So I'm reading the room a little bit better today than now that you brought that out than I did before. Some of them just want you to check in and skip the pleasantries, and that's fine too. They've got other airplanes they got to control. So now I need to be back, be better about it.
Yeah.
So what about you guys? Any flying lately? Well, Brian, we know about you. You tried, but you couldn't.
Well,
you had other plans.
When I did, because remember I flew the weekend before because we did a pretend weekly.
Yeah.
So, I'll just say real quick that I had a pretty great flying experience in that, and I don't know if I've even mentioned this on the podcast, but maybe I did once briefly, but the original guys that I bought into the partnership for Lucy with, one of them passed away suddenly a few months ago, and him and the other guy were very, very good friends, and the plane was their means of communing and being friends, and they just really enjoyed having that plane together. When circumstances led them to get out of that partnership, and then I had to create a new partnership with someone else, all that, I could tell that it very much was troublesome to it's kind of like I don't know if you ever had a car or I don't know, something that you just really, really love, but for whatever reason you just couldn't hold on to it, and then if the person that now has that car is always saying, hey, do you want to go for a ride in your old car? On one hand, it's like, sure, but also I don't know if I want to stomach that, Yeah. Because it's painful. And so all that is just a long prelude to say I was able to take him up and go for a flight, and he had not been up in a long time. And, he's had a lot of stuff going on. So it was not only just good to fly, but it was just a good experience. So I felt like I felt very rewarded by constantly trying to make sure that invitation in whatever way that works is always there. And so we went to Owensboro. Ben, you did not show up in an Albatross, but we still went to Owensboro and just got some barbecue and had a little hang. So it was some good flying and all that. And, no problems. The only thing that was weird is I experienced my first full GPS outage.
Oh.
And I mean, I saw a screen on the 530 that I didn't even know was a possible screen that you could have. Giant yellow, banner. Just have you seen this?
No. I love that there's a failure mode. It's like the blue screen of death, but it's Garmin's yellow screen of death. Yeah.
Yeah. For having no GPS. And I believe, because I've never had that happen. And maybe that's something that happens sometimes and I just haven't had that happen. But, I feel like there's been a lot of solar flares and a bunch of weird things going on. And we were out there in that area and I don't know.
I saw some conversations on another Discord server where they were talking about this GPS outage, and they were in southern Indiana, so they weren't.
That's not far.
No, that's my point.
That's kind of where I was actually.
There was. Yeah. So I'm sure that was part of the whole deal. So.
Well, it was quite dramatic.
Yeah. It was, and you were still able to find Owensboro and actually land the airplane there.
Yeah. It was on the way back, and
okay.
Yeah, and I just thought, well, I don't know where I am. I don't trust this compass. We're just gonna we're just going to fly away from the sun.
The compass is spinning in circles. The GPS has a yellow across it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It was like one of those 80s, like sort of ET vibe, right? Like stuff was, or Gremlins. The stuff was just starting to go crazy. Yeah. So anyway, it was a fun experience. Good rewarding flight. So
nice.
So that was really, really good.
Cool. Ted, you've been able to get up in the air at all?
Yeah, I've just done a couple of flights that are kind of like using the plane rather than flying. I went. It's funny. This airport that I go to, Independence, is 53 miles from my home airport, and I think every time about how great that would be as a student pilot. Like that's your perfect airport for distance. But I went down to Independence a couple times and worked on my friend's plane, his experimental that he's been working on, and it's we'll be doing something mechanical, and then we'll be doing something with electronics and back and forth on, kind of just solving a few problems before it gets back up in the air. Then I went over to Twin Oaks. There's a whole bunch of conversation of people in the chat that are at Twin Oaks. Kind of funny tonight, but went over there and did a little thing for Van's aircraft. If that shows up, we'll talk about it. But interesting. It was it's cool to kind of see people in the community, and I hadn't been over to Twin Oaks in many months. So it was nice to go and actually land there and, whatever else. But, besides that, I mean, those are just like direct flights. Nothing very special. I guess since we talked about this last, so this would be maybe 10 days ago, week and a half, 2 weeks. Time is hard to understand sometimes. I flew to the coast, and on the way back, I had some time. And so I went to this airport that is one of those airports that exists on the sectional with an R on it. It's a private airport. You can't tap on it. There's no airport information, that type of thing. And so it's a private airport. You have to get approval before you land there. I had an open invitation, and I figured there'd be people there on the weekend because people live there. And I landed, I explored this place, walked through kind of these shops and saw a plane that both looked like it had been flown recently and had been there forever. Kind of a strange thing. So it was really cool. Just a cool, private airport that you can just kind of like jump into, and little Twilight Zone, I guess, but it was cool.
Well, quick question for you, Ted. I noticed in the Discord that you had shared some aggregate insights from your last mega trip, where it's hard to tell from tracing the map whether you are fleeing the IRS or if you are enjoying yourself. But either way, you put up some impressive numbers.
Yeah. I can go pull those numbers really quick, but
land speed record for the egg.
Yeah. Why don't we roll through the belly scrub and I'll get back to that when we.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew you'd do that to me.
Oh, you know why? It's not trying to segue into that. It's that I want to go find this thing and I can't get to it and talk fast enough. So I'm not a professional here. I'm just delaying.
All right. So we'll have a competition. We'll see if you can find it before I get done. All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right.
Go.
We're grateful for you all making this the best pilot community that we know of, a positive space. We share everything from training experiences, share personal minimums, tackle ownership challenges, review flight plans, and best of all, make new aviation friends. Connect with us, join our Patreon community for $1 a month, or do a one-time annual Patreon, 25 cents per episode. Access exclusive content, including check ride debriefs, killing zone conversations, and more on the Discord. 10% supports Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. Watch us live on YouTube, Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Share your stories at midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. We read all the messages, and you might hear yours on the show. For everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, community feedback, merch, and more, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com.
Yes. And the belly scrub. We have a couple of new members on Patreon. I'd like to thank them. At the Hershey Bar level, we have Gita B. We're hoping we've got the pronunciation of that right, Gita. And then we have Scott P. And Scott's rolled into Discord, and it's always great to have conversations and meet new people. So
Hershey Bar, that's my level.
Really appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, we don't have any more feedback. So, yeah, we can roll into it.
Did we, by the way, we have feedback that we just haven't, we remembered to forward. Is that right?
There's some stuff in the inbox that, given my recent travails of not being or disconnected from the internet, I haven't been able to pull it up, but were a couple of emails, some feedbacks that we got from a couple of listeners. One of them just appeared in the chat. Our friend Lewis sent him some interesting. Welcome.
He gave us a good topic idea that we're gonna look at that more deeply.
Yes, we are.
I actually got
Oh, I hadn't even seen that one. Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. I hadn't even seen that one. Yes.
Yeah.
I've got a quick feedback I can read. That's a 5-star review.
Ooh.
The only kind. Yes.
Yes. And so we like to, we forget to ask people to leave 5-star reviews. Please go do that. Press buttons, do stuff. We've actually been, and by the way, we don't live and die by these things, but it is interesting to see. We've pretty much been in the top 10 of aviation podcasts for probably the last couple of weeks. Usually we'll get up there, and then, as the episode starts to age, other new things kind of take it over that have recently published things. And then it kind of, I don't know what drives all this, but, but I'll say just thanks to everybody for just continuing to listen. And, thanks for, pressing play on your podcast player and then leaving the room, because it really helps our engagement numbers, apparently, where people, the algorithm thinks that you've listened to the entire episode all the way through. So, I'm not saying we need to set up like a Bangladeshi click farm or anything, but we will if we need to. No.
Yes.
You have like one of those like stands with 60 iPhones on it that all have a bot that presses. Yeah, we can do something like that. But in the meantime, I'll just read this 5-star review, and we'll go about this organically, the honest way. Nice little review here from PenZap. Newbie friendly. These guys do a great job of making you feel like you're just sitting around the living room talking about flying. They keep it very casual, yet hit on a lot of important topics for new pilots like myself. I'm about 15 episodes in currently and always look forward to driving so I can listen to the next episode. So thank you so much for that. And, 15 episodes in, I wonder, similar to OB, we want people to go backwards, not forwards, because it's just a little confusing. It's not a storyline. It is always interesting to hear the early stages of any podcast versus where they are now. I'm not saying we're that much better, but we're definitely better.
Yeah.
And
it's like, what happened to Chris? We don't talk about Chris.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, let's talk about Chris real quick.
Let's talk about Chris.
Let's talk about Chris, because that was a great video he just posted.
I'm so glad to see. He's such a great example of, a lot of us met through him, and obviously he and I started this podcast back when.
To set the scene, because not everybody's been here since episode 1 in our serialized drama podcast.
Yeah.
This is the Midlife Pilot podcast because Chris Moran is the Midlife Pilot, and this podcast was originally on his channel because you take the name of his channel and add the word podcast to it. So when we talk about Chris, that's why we're talking about it. This was Brian and Chris's pot.
So what's really cool is that he notably and openly would talk about the anxieties and the fears that he would have about flying as he was learning, and even as he was getting out there as a private pilot. And I always appreciated that so much about how honest he was about those things. And it's so funny because on one hand, he's saying I'm kind of nervous or apprehensive about these things, but he's also wildly capable and aware and a very good communicator and on the radio, and he's a good pilot. So anybody can be nervous, but anyway, he's been really busy. Obviously, that's why he stopped doing the podcast with me, and or at least that's what he said. And then it was sort of like one of those divorces where it's like, no, really, you can take the house, you can take the car, you can take everything. It's fine. No, really, actually, I'll just I've got my t-shirt. That's good.
I got my thermos.
Yeah.
I'm good to go.
No, he had a bunch of stuff going on that he wanted to do, and he just wasn't flying as much. And he just felt like he wasn't able to contribute, honestly. And so it was a very dignified move that he made, really. He really just wanted best for what had been built in terms of the community and all that. And so that was about, I don't know, a year and a half ago or something. Mm-hmm. And so he's been doing his thing, conducting music, all these things. And, he just finally has been getting back in the left seat and doing some flying and starting to film the flights and starting to make videos again. And he just published one on Saturday, and it was just made everybody really happy. It's just sort of, we're still close with Chris. We obviously went there for the 100th episode.
100,
100th episode there. He's still directly correlated to all of these things, albeit in the background. So in this case, it just felt like, I don't know, sort of like having an old friend come back. So congrats, Chris, for making this video and for the ones you're going to keep making. But more importantly, just that you're flying and that you're enjoying it, and you have a renewed, expanded idea of how you want to go about your flying. And so I just think it's great. So I just want to mention that.
Well, and not flying was okay too.
That's right.
And we've talked about that with him, and the amount of flying you do doesn't make you more or less of a midlife pilot.
That's right.
You can have done this. Is that actual words? You can have never gotten in a plane and just be thinking about it. It doesn't matter. It's all, we're not judging you on what level it's at.
Ted, the Southern equivalent of what you just said would be, if you done it.
Done it. Okay. Yeah.
My only contribution to that is Chris will always and forever be the OG.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, Brian, you're part of that as well, obviously, but as far as I'm concerned, he will always be the OG midlife pilot. So
that's right.
And we're glad to hear that. So, but yeah, it's actually, as soon as I got back from my trip, that was one of the first videos I watched when I saw that it popped up in my feed, or when you posted it in the thing. So, but yeah, so why don't we get to the main topic tonight?
We're allowed.
We have a main topic.
We have a topic. Yes, we do. We're going to talk about cross-country cockpit organization.
Yep.
Would that be a fair way to describe it?
Yes.
Coming back from the big Texas end, a lot of us took some really long trips, and especially Ted. So you're going to kind of be the focus of this one. To kind of set it up, there's things that we have all learned. We're not CFIs. We say this every single time.
Yeah.
But we have had these experiences, and we've learned some things from them. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. You might have your own way of doing it. But there are certain things that I know when I'm going to be flying multiple legs with 3 hours or more, I do some specific things to get myself set up for it.
Yeah.
Now, Ted in the egg has to do the same thing, but he does it with 8-hour legs.
Yeah, he's like building bookcases and stuff in there.
Exactly. Yeah, and doing it in a plane that is the size of a Miata inside. So
yeah,
in some ways it's easier because everything's within reach. In some ways it's much harder because there's less room. But yeah,
right. So for me, I've said this before, I try to keep my distances 3 to 3.5 hours. But in that time, I know my lower back's going to start bugging me. I make sure that I have lumbar support. I have certain things that I do to make the plane. Now, I know this is going to sound shocking to y'all, but there are some things I need to do to make it ergonomically user-friendly. I know the Beast has some really comfortable seats in it, but it was built in 1968, and lower back support was not on anybody's mind back then. Other things like, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Do you take your wallet out of your pants?
It's always in the front pocket.
Do you do like a Costanza wallet?
No, I don't have a Costanza wallet, but I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where you lose all your feeding. You're like, No, what I was going to say is, I kind of arrange my snacks and my drinks so they're pretty easy access to, because, I just try to set the cockpit up. I know I've been with you guys, some of the listeners, you're filming and you have wires coming out of everywhere. I can't do that. I've got my one wire coming out of the charger. I've got to have a clean environment for me to go. Now, if it's a short hop and we're filming, that's fine. But for the long stuff, I need to have a really fresh, clean slate to work from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious about Ted with the long flights that you do.
Yeah.
What do you do differently than if you're just doing the short hop to the coast or?
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, there are a lot of things that are the opposite about your flights in your plane. The GoPros are mounted in the plane. I have no suction cups in the plane on purpose. All the wiring is tucked in as well as I can. You see in my videos and it's messy, but it's the best you can do. Just staying with the GoPros for the longer trips, battery management is the problem. Can I keep these things charging? Do I have the GoPro battery charger and I can swap them out if I'm going to record the whole time? All that becomes its own thing. And we've talked about recording in flights before. But just speaking of long legs, that's one thing. My thing, and this comes from doing the long distance motorcycle riding, is working up to the distance and solving the complaints as the legs get longer. The seats are comfortable for me, for my size and the way the plane is shaped. I'm comfortable in them, and I actually try not to move around a whole lot when I'm in the seat, because I find that I'm more comfortable than if I am always adjusting and all of that. But yeah, it's keeping everything within reach, which seems easy because everything in my cockpit is within reach. The problem is there's not a lot of space. And so having things not packed away, if I wanted to get to them, those are the things that you really notice. I'll tell you, on this trip to Texas, I went to grab for my oxygen at one point, and I realized, oh, the oxygen's in the back. I didn't think I was going to need it for this leg. Mm-hmm. And I didn't. I was at 9,500, but it's just nice to have when you're getting up to there, and you can test your oxygen level, and that's with the oxygen tank as well, my O2 sensor. But I tried to reach. There's a pass through, and I tried to reach, and it was too far back. I was like, okay, well, I'll either have to stop, descend a long way, or I'll do without it for this leg.
Or just unbuckle, just throw the autopilot on, unbuckle, climb into the back seat, and the plane will
walk back there. Yeah, exactly.
For the record, please, people, do not do that.
Yeah, especially don't go to the back seat of my plane. Yeah,
because there is none.
Because there is none.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was wondering is, so for me, and one of the things I love, we don't have a lot of them. We just have one, but it's one of those movable sun shield things that just kind of sticks wherever you put it. And that thing is awesome. I've had so many trips where I'm just grateful to have something that I can put it in really weird spots, you know what I mean? Like strangely down here in the corner, or, whatever, and block exactly the worst of the sun that's coming through. But I was wondering if you had, what do you have in your cockpit for long trips for the sun besides the built-in visors? Or do you need anything else?
I need it. And that's one of those items that I keep trying to remember to buy. And by the time I get back home, I forget about it. And then, so I'm taking Terry down to St. Simon's in a couple of weeks, and I need to buy them right now because one of the kids, or two of the three of the kids, may be coming down with us. Terry will be in the back seat, and inevitably it's going to be a bright, sunny day, and she's going to be cooking back there.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that
this?
reminder. I've heard multiple people say they really do make a big difference in the temps,
Or
especially at this time of the year.
Have you told Tara this is what's about to happen?
No. I want her to be pleasantly surprised when she gets in the plane and she doesn't have the sun beating down on her.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. By the way, funny comment in here from our friend Barry. He says, for the longer trips, what do you do to entertain yourself since there's not a license plate game as an option? It's funny.
Yeah.
I had this exact same conversation with somebody recently. We were making the same point, and what I'll say is, our friend Barry has a little bit of a venture he's running called Checkmate Aviation. And you know what you can do with a Checkmate checklist? You can use it as a sunshade, and you can also play word association games with it. So maybe that's a plug for him. But I just wanted to say thanks for, again, to Barry for making awesome checklists that he's been testing out with all of the attendees from Tango 82 fly-in. I'm sure he's gotten a lot of really good feedback. So thanks for everybody taking him up on that. And all that. But yeah, checklist, you can, if it's laminated well enough, you can slice, deli meat up there. You can do a lot of stuff.
I'm wondering if maybe he could put a Sudoku board or maybe a tic-tac-toe board on his checklist. There may be something that I like to play guess the frequency. What's your next frequency going to be?
Oh yeah.
Virgil has a couple here. It's spot the airport and spot the traffic. Definitely do both of those. Do a lot of staring down. And what is it that I'm looking at? And can I figure out what town this is without looking at the GPS?
I have a weird thing where I keep noticing people with circular driveways.
Oh, huh.
There's a lot of people out there in the country living like royalty. They've got these, curved all the way through driveways. What a choice that is, right? You're living large if you can do that.
Yeah.
For me, one of the things I always try to remember in terms of longer trips is, it sounds silly, but it's really easy when you have prescription sunglasses and prescription glasses. If you're flying from day into evening or night, it's very easy to just forget that you have your sunglasses on, and then you need to make sure that you have your regular glasses where you can actually get to them. So there's that. I want to give a quick shout out also to our friend Lewis when he was visiting me here at John Toon, and he was having a look at Lucy. He said, "Why is your fire extinguisher, behind your seat there, behind the back seat?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, you need to move that." I was like, "Yeah, I know." And usually it's in the back seat, but somehow it got moved behind there, and I hadn't noticed. Yeah. And so I'll just make a note to everybody to make sure that your fire extinguisher is within arm's reach.
Yes. Yeah.
Regarding the sunglasses, I kind of came up with a good solution because that was something that I did think about ahead of time, especially if you're instrument rated and it's really cloudy and then you take off and then you get above the layer and then it's really bright and then you have to descend back down. But we're not sponsored by them, but Flying Eyes, I have bifocals that are not tinted, but they have the magnetic clip sunglasses that you can add to them. So it's just pop on and pop off. So if you're in that situation, it does make it very simple.
I have a Flying Eyes code, but I don't remember what it is. I'm looking for it right now.
I was just looking that up too. So the code is Siskind.
I actually just use it.
Yeah, your discount code at Flying Eyes is Siskind.
Yeah.
I got and the reason I could do it is that it's in my email because I got my Flying Eyes a few months ago. And
you did?
I did. Yeah. And the prescription lenses and then with the magnetic, clip-on, sunglasses, which, both good reasons to get it. But I nerded out because I needed some way to have them within reach. And so I 3D printed a cubby. I'm not sure if any of you saw it, but in my plane, kind of right next to my leg, there's a cubby and there's a slot that holds the case with the magnetic sunglasses. There's a cubby that holds the Flying Eyes case, and it's like perfectly shaped for that. It also has a slot for my phone, a slot for my favorite notepad size, and it has another extra slot for extra pens. So that was my like you want to talk about organizing the cockpit for long distance. That was what I needed to do, was have a way to reach that stuff easily.
Now, do you guys have, okay, by the way, I just remembered what my number one favorite thing is, most necessary thing to have in the cockpit is. But do you guys, well, I'm going to grab it here so I have a visual aid for the mostly audio audience.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you guys have like, if just like, what is the one thing that if it's not in the right place or you don't have it, like you just lose your mind? But it's not critical to, rules of flying or anything. Or
I know what that is right when you said it.
What's that?
My knee board.
Oh, yeah.
My field notes.
Yeah.
Field notes.
Notepad. Yeah.
I've got to have my knee board. I don't know what it is about it, but that's just I guess that's my safety blanket.
Yeah. It's your binky. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I used to fly with one all the time, and now I feel like I can't. It actually annoys me now.
Wow.
And I don't know. I don't know. Because there's something about when I'm landing, I would always take it when I'm on. I just didn't want anything on my legs or hitting. I feel like it hits. I feel like it would hit stuff, or just I don't know.
Yeah.
But also, I have like Herschel Walker like thighs. They're massive. No, that's not really true. So here's my thing. This is.
It looks like a towel that he's holding.
It is a towel. It's embroidered by a friend of mine who gave it to me. So when I was living in New York City and I was biking all the time in the summer, you had to have something with you to wipe all the sweat off when you got to where you were going. And these particular towels are the kind that are quick drying, antimicrobial, whatever, get the stink off your towels,
Yeah.
And they dry really easily. So having this has saved me in the plane, not just for getting all the sweat off of me in the summertime, but if you watch the first Marfa video that I did, you'll see a bunch of footage of me with this thing around my neck like this because the sun was coming from behind in such a way that it was basically just burning my neck.
Yeah.
So I say have a sweat towel, a really good quick drying sweat towel, especially if you live down here.
There's a few people in the comments that have noticed the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference of, always have your towel. So got to shout out that.
Yep. I don't have the towel, but we do keep probably 3 or 4 rolls of paper towels in the back. And this time of the year, they live in the back seat or they're within arm's reach because taxiing in Georgia in July, it doesn't matter how wide your window is open. It's an oven and I can't see out my eyes because of the sweats,
Yeah, I'm noticing that this is a Southern issue. It's not something that I worry about. I do tend to have a microfiber towel, and it's good for cleaning up when you're eating. And then I've got a lens cloth to clean the glasses because if you wear glasses, you always need to clean your glasses. It seems.
I actually always I try to make a point to clean. If I'm going on a long trip, I also want just the panel to be clean. Because if you let stuff kind of get dirty, you can get into the right sunlight, and all of a sudden you're not able to see things very well, or whatever. But real quick, I wanted to do. Our friend Wendell Geek was kind enough to lend us his thoughts on all this, and they are aplenty. And so I thought maybe we could do a lightning round where we read through Mark's. It's so funny, Ted. I'm reading your face right now. Your face is saying, "Where are these notes coming from?"
Me?
I haven't pulled up, so I'm actually one step ahead.
Okay, so
they're, where they are, Ted?
Yes,
in the car. In the car.
I'm looking over at them. Yeah.
Okay,
so I'll just read. I'll just beg through them real quick. How's that?
Yeah.
All right.
Do the before flight, and let's chat a few of them about the in flight.
Okay, so before flight, Wendell Geek offers, a good meal before arriving at airport. Keep in mind, his are a bit more like long cross-country trip tips kind of woven into this, but still all good stuff. Good meal before arriving at airport. This is planning ahead. This has an effect downstream, so that's a good point. Supply of healthy snacks. Restroom used. Little John in reachable location.
His son's named John. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anything I might need in flight and backpack placed behind passenger seat so I can easily reach it. For example, backup iPad, handheld radio, headlamps, spare batteries, power banks. Yes, I have similar, for my headset, I have a preloaded cartridge for if my charge dies, I don't have to go fishing for batteries. I can just drop that in there. That's really a good one.
Yeah.
But I think the theme here is just take advantage of arm's reach. Don't be so focused on stowing things, if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yep. He had a couple of them that kind of resonated with me on the in-flight. First, no or minimal fluids until 60 minutes before landing. That's also known as tactical dehydration, which is on open. And there is something to that for sure. I do follow, and it's also Steve-O, the YouTuber, talks about, it's coffee time when it's 60 minutes away from landing. But I do believe that there is something to that. I have had passengers that claimed that they could hold it, and they couldn't actually hold it, and unscheduled stops were made.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that, Ben.
Exactly.
You can just say it.
Mistakes were made. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And I love it when ATC comes on and said, "And what's the reason for your diversion?"
Right.
Yeah.
And you say number one.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
My passenger is pissed. Yeah.
Exactly.
He also says cough drops in lieu of fluid for mouth dryness. I've got to say, I am not a believer in tactical dehydration. And maybe the length of my legs influences this as well. But the last thing I want to do is have my brain be drained of fluid and make my body feel worse. So I would rather stay hydrated and make sure that you have a way to deal with that. So yeah, I just want to say I'm against the idea of tactical dehydration.
All fair. And yeah. I get your point. Again, that's why I limit my legs to 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not going to become completely dehydrated in 3 hours time period.
By the way, Captain Todd said as a rule that paper towels in planes have to be blue, right? Yes, they have to be shop towels. They cannot be pedestrian Bounty paper towels. Yeah. They must be shop towels, though I think Bounty might make shop towels. If they're smart, they do. But yes, they got to be blue. This is totally unrelated, but I just want to say this real quick because that's what we do. Was talking to a mechanic recently, this past Friday, and he was talking about how we were talking about Blackstone oil reports and how just incredible it is that they can get such incredible detail, And he offered a story. He said, I was doing oil changes for this one flight school one time years ago, and they were getting reports from Blackstone that they were getting sodium in their oil. And we were trying to figure out how in the world do you get sodium into your oil? Where's this coming from? How's this happening? Well, it turns out the school had been making a bad habit of eating McDonald's, throwing the bags in the back seat, and then sometimes leaving them there and not picking them up. Or just taking long cross countries and just leaving them in there and maybe not getting them until the end of the day. But in the absence of having proper shop towels or even regular paper towels, they were having to use McDonald's napkins taken out of bags to wipe the dipstick when they were dealing with the oil. And that residual salt was enough to go from the dipstick into the oil and register with Blackstone as having sodium content in the oil.
So is Blackstone telling them that they have a hypertensive airplane?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah.
Wow.
So blue shop towels. Yes, do that.
Blue shop towels. I've been using Brawny paper towels. Apparently I need to make that change. I'll make sure that happens the next flight.
Yeah.
He does mention one other one that I want to make sure that we hit. Extra diligence on fuel management. I do watch my gauges very, very closely on those longer flights. As I've said many times on the podcast, the very first thing that my first instructor told me during private training was never trust a fuel gauge. And those always seem to catch my attention when they're swaying back and forth, but they're going from half to quarter and then quarter to empty and just kind of fluctuating. I'm very mindful of that. And especially in our 182, the fuel burn is not even. You can't just leave it on both the entire time. You have to burn off the right tank.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. So, when your fuel goes to the engine, not all of the fuel gets burned and it returns back to one of the fuel tanks. So the right tank gets a fuel return. And so it'll stay full when the left tank will be down to half. So we'll have to, usually after about an hour of flying, we switch it over to the right tank and burn it till it's even again. And then by then, we should be within 30, 45 minutes of landing. So, but it's just something, again, for those longer flights that you really do have to pay attention to.
Yeah. I do 30 minutes on the first tank that I select and then an hour on the second and then go like that. Yeah. Have a timer in the cockpit that is just for your fuel. That's really what, I don't trust anything.
I have the totalizer. I have a timer that goes off at 30 minutes, even though it drains evenly out of both tanks and has a header. So I don't have the fuel return going to a wing issue. Still check it every 30 minutes.
That's right.
Analyze everything.
Yes. I keep a gas can also with 100 low lead in the back seat. So, because that's one of the advantages of having a low wing.
Just crawl out there and refuel it.
You just get the passenger to do it, right? It doesn't make any sense for you to do it. You're flying.
The Piper door opened on half the flights anyway. So,
it's on the passenger. You only have one door to open anyway.
That's right.
So it has to be.
It's hard. You don't want to crawl over to get to the other wing.
No,
that would be ridiculous.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Good news and bad news. The bad news is we need more fuel. Oh, actually, it's worse news. It's in the left wing. Okay, that's gonna make for a bad day. Yeah. But he says in his after the flight comment, which is analyze your fuel usage. How did it measure up to what you thought it was going to be? And I think it's especially easy on the long trips to forget about fuel because you may have calculated that the distance and then you forgot that the time varies because of headwinds and so the reminders to check it in flight and then to analyze it afterward is really important.
Yeah. Very cool. Anything else that we need to add to that?
Well, there's a couple of chats here. It'd be great to get to real quick before we go.
Sure.
Have you ever heard of this? It seems like we have somebody new in the chat. Lord Mentor Alpha Juliet. Is that Lord Alpha Juliet or is that Lord? Why is this? Who is this mentor?
Mental.
That's new to me. I don't know who that guy is. His little picture has him inverted, so that must be his evil twin, maybe.
Yes.
Well, he mentioned that I think valves used to have a sodium core, and that is correct.
Yeah.
Because he's the mentor.
Yeah. Any other comments? I did want to show our friend Barry. Checkmate Barry. My center console organizer is by far the best thing in my 182. Has room for cell phone magnetic sunglasses, oximeter, knee board, water, snacks, and backup radio. So I wrote a little note, look up 182 organizers. I've actually seen them before. Mm-hmm. We could use that in an airplane. I'll say that right now. We've got the little caddy down by the fuel selector, but it's meh.
So how much space do you have there?
How much space?
Yeah.
It's pretty wide. It's pretty wide.
It's like a pickup truck with a little bit of room between the seats.
And with floor. With your seats, it's kind of like do you remember those den furniture things you would have in the 70s where they just went ahead and built a table between the two pieces of furniture, that the couches that had the almost like RV style things where they'd have the
built-in
cup holder built into furniture or whatever. You should go to like a custom van shop and just see what they got, Yeah.
I'm just wondering if I couldn't incorporate a separate ashtray from what we have on the incorporate that as well. That'd be really good.
I've got two things I want to cover before we're done. Number one is we've talked about organizing. We've kind of touched around this a little bit, but what about food? What do you like having in the plane? Are you a no food, strategic dehydration in the plane only? What's your
I'll say for me, I typically don't ever bring any substantial food, but I bring the things I like to have with me to keep me good is I'll take a banana before. You can't keep a banana in the plane, but I do find that my muscles like having a banana right before I fly. So I do that. And then I have found that honestly, just Cliff Bars are just super lightweight and filling and satisfying and can endure all sorts of abuse in terms of temperature or whatever. And so that's good. I see people that get real crazy with, food while flying. And I'm not really one of those people, but I will say that, when I left Texas one time, I went to this sandwich shop, the best sandwich of my entire life, this place called Bordeaux, Bordo in Marfa, Texas. Look it up on Instagram and you're going to want to eat every single thing that they have because the pictures actually almost tell the story of how great their food is. But I had one of their sandwiches, this giant leftover. I put it in the fridge the night before, brought it out to the plane at sunrise, took off. And then once it was about lunchtime, I pulled that thing out and I realized for the first time how satisfying it can be to have just an incredibly giant, messy sandwich in the plane. And it was the best sandwich probably, especially leftover, that I'd ever had in my life. Luckily, I had one of those big folding boxes that it came in. So the carnage was contained. But yeah, generally I don't do a whole lot. Maybe peanuts or...
And that's when Brian realized that the towel should be within reach.
That's right. Yeah.
I have to say for me, it's granola bars and coffee. And I don't care how hot it is outside. For me, coffee is a appetite suppressant. Plus the caffeine gives me a little bit of energy. And the granola, I don't know. There's something about the granola that holds me over very nicely, and I'm not, still have an appetite when the next meal comes around. So those are my kind of go-tos.
Yeah, I'm a little bit closer to what Wendell Geek does. On longer trips, I plan in advance for it, and I'll go to the grocery store and get like a big platter of fruit. My favorite is a little bit of honeydew, some watermelon, things like that, and it's all cubed up perfectly. And so I'll get a deli sandwich that's in a container, and don't always eat the deli sandwich, but that gives me a meal on a longer flight if I need it. And that tray of fruit just comes out all the time. You've got 45 minutes. That's going to be pretty quiet and boring. Get that out and you're eating it and you're just, eating healthy. It's really nice.
I will say, I do have one other, is that when you go to the most remote airport with a vending machine that hadn't been tended to in, 15 years, the Twinkies in there are usually really good.
Yeah. They are the MREs of the future.
Exactly. Exactly. And Lord's mentor, Alpha Juliet, has been complaining about my food service. He always misses the memo that when he flies with me, I'm covering all expenses, but he's supposed to be bringing the snacks and he's yet to do it. So, that's between you.
He was complimenting Mr. Wendell Geek's snack service on his flight. And I've got to say, that's the opposite experience that we had on episode 100, where he brought enough food for himself into the plane. Yeah. And he had his great snacks. His list here was trail mix, cheese cubes, pepperoni, and fruit. Yeah. And he had just enough for himself, not enough to share.
That reminds me of, coming back from episode 100, coming back from West Virginia, we were all loaded down with pepperoni rolls.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the original intent of that food, really, was for miners, right? So the circumstances are, vaguely not really similar, but you know what I'm saying? Travel or just unfriendly conditions food. And when Luke and I had stopped off somewhere in West Virginia, it was just great to go, wow, we have a giant bag of pepperoni rolls ready to go.
Yes.
So that was awesome. We got to get back up there, guys. I really like the Fairmont Airport and the whole vibe, and we should go see Chris again sometime soon.
Boy,
Ted, you up
that's
for
a bit
it?
of a flight.
Easy.
I know that's a bit of a flight. Yeah. Well,
Just
that was the other thing.
Pepperoni rolls.
That was the other thing that I wanted to cover because we promised it, and I'm sure there's one person out there that actually cared. That was still paying attention to this from the intro to this episode. So I took the stats out of. I've actually analyzed the stats out of this trip a couple of times, but the Dine-On gives you about 100 data points every second that come off the plane. And it's a lot of data to process. It's actually too much for AI to process, but I just kind of reprocess it locally and do that. But the data that I wanted out of it in this case was how far did I actually fly versus the point to point that Mr. Wendell Geek and I had calculated. And so I calculated it being about 5,100 miles. And it was actually 5,400 because I, went circles some of that time.
Laps in the pattern.
Exactly. Waiting for, the runway to be cleared off of, damaged egg parts. But one of the other stats that was in there that I was enjoying was the fastest ground speed segments. And a segment is 1 second long. But there's a whole series of them as I was coming down into Denver, which is, Ben, you had noticed this before you even left on the trip, I believe, that I had 159.1 knots, which is a pretty good ground speed. That's, that's 40 plus mile an hour or knot winds. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you were doing that as you and I were coming into Tango 82 from opposite directions. I'm quite positive you were hitting about 150 knots.
I have a screenshot from FlightAware where both of y'all are in frame. And Brian's doing like 68 knots and Ted was doing like 150 knots.
Yeah.
It was like, what world are we living in right now?
Yeah, I could have had somebody on the wing refueling and it really wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
Additional drag. We get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
what other stats? Anything else?
That was fun to pull those out. Well, I had also shared this a little while ago, but I had done a bunch of analysis to figure out the airspeed changes from pants and no pants. And surprisingly, it's about a 4% gain to go pantsless. So the pants are supposed to help with aerodynamics. In this case, I believe they're too big. And so now I don't feel bad about flying without the wheel pants on. Although AI had no idea that I was talking about wheel pants, it kept trying to guess why I cared about flying with pants or without pants. It thought it had something to do with drag, but it couldn't figure out how the pilot's pants affected that. So, yeah. So anyway, it was nice to cover all that.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Just as a quick recap, don't forget to reach out to us and send us feedback. How do you plan for your long cross countries? Not the planning, but how do you set your cockpit up for long cross countries? What foods do you eat? Send us that information. Interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. Anything else, gentlemen, for the good of the order?
Good.
Well, tonight's bit of wisdom is more IFR wisdom for you, Brian. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
If it feels like you're flying sideways in a washing machine, congrats, you're an IMC. Signing off, episode 131 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Good night, everybody.